Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. As you heard, my name is Callie Kniebly. I'm the project manager for ICBA, Independent Banker Magazine, and I have the pleasure of introducing the featured presenter for today's webinar event, sponsored by Passageways. Parun Chadha is the co-founder and CEO of Passageways. He led Passageways to be named in the Inc. 500 list of fastest growing businesses in America, and he was named one of the top 10 young professionals under 40 by Tippy Connect, Indiana. Parun is a frequent speaker at conferences that has been widely published in several magazines. In addition, he was named in the Hall of Fame at Purdue University as a Purdue Innovator in 2013. So with that wonderful introduction, Parun, I now turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So obviously happy to be here. I certainly am looking forward to, making full use of this time here. We're going to talk about, a pretty key topic. It was said no paper, no meetings. I wish our world had no meetings. The fact is meetings are a fact of life, and we're going to talk about how to make your meetings much more effective, from boardroom to your loan committee meetings and all the other meetings. Quickly about Passageways. As I talk about, Passageways as a company, just keep in mind that we are based out of Lafayette, Indiana. We've been in business for 13 years. And, on an average day, more than 30 board meetings are done on our platform, board or committee meetings. Okay? So that's something to keep in mind. We serve more than 500 portals, mostly in North America, some overseas as well. But a lot of them are in the U.S. and Canada. With that introduction, I am actually really, quickly going to go over some of the portal questions that you guys have answered for us before I introduced, our guest speaker for the day as well. So basically, we asked you which device do you use in your boardroom. A lot of you guys said iPad. We do see, 36% people still on paper. Some of you guys are using Android. We don't have anybody using Windows or laptops, and that's interesting, actually. I would have thought that Windows Surface tablet would have shown up. So that's good. We were asking if you guys are using a digital, I believe, if you're not using, a digital board portal or some sort, what's holding you back? And it seems like, some of you guys are already there. There's some budget concerns. You might have some, directors that have expressed some reservation. It could be, something that's ongoing. So that's, what we have there. And finally, how many of you would consider using, though it's called a board portal, the fact is loan committee meeting is a great candidate for going digital and using a portal like the one that we're going to talk about today. And, interestingly, 64% of you guys said that is a consideration that you guys already have. So with those questions and answers out of the way, I'm going to actually, at this point say thank you to ICBA. We are not just a preferred service provider, but we also love working with their team. It's a great team to really work with, and we appreciate them putting together this event today. So let's get right to our guest speaker. So you got a little introduction on me. I serve on 4 different boards. Do have a fair amount of experience working through, just what goes on in a board meeting and several committee meetings that are related as well. But I also have somebody here on the call today, Gabe. Gabe, are you there with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
So, Gabe's, pretty key to what we're going to talk about today. He's based out of Texas, Commercial Bank of Texas. I think they're mostly in the north and east. Did I get that right? North and east of Texas?
That's correct. We've got a few branches in the Dallas Metroplex, but mainly deeper eastern Texas.
Yep. And then, why I think he's interesting and his perspective matters is simply because he's the manager of their loan administration, and they use, our portal software that we're going to talk about today in their loan committees as well. He's obviously involved in some capacity with the board meetings as well, but certainly his primary focus is the loan committee meeting, and he's going to talk about that. So I'm happy to have Gabe really kind of just, share his experience with us today. So with that, let me get right into it. And I'm going to ask, Gabe to actually jump in, along the way here. So first things first, I understand the meeting dynamic that happens in the boardroom. Certainly the boardroom is a very interesting experience, but certainly even other groups. I love, talking about this particular situation. I've been in this situation myself where, you are almost like a lion tamer and everybody else is like a lion and, they will eat you up if you don't have your act together. You can't waste time. You can't not have the information. It's an interesting dynamic where it's, the information is key, it's vital, complex, and it's unlike any other, sort of group that you've worked with. And that's sort of the backdrop. But, we are here to help you tame this lion today. The decisions that are made, in those meetings, obviously there are several key decisions that, you make as a group, whether it's a loan committee or audit committee or board meeting, a board as a group. I have a list of things here. You guys know what I'm talking about. This is pretty much the only place where you have some of these decisions can be discussed. I like to call the boardroom as your inner sanctum that a CEO gets. It's the only place where you can go and you can actually really, discuss something freely, or really kind of brainstorm some of the things that you can discuss often, with your executive team and such. I think boards also have an interesting sort of, evolution that's going on. The boards typically have provided oversight. Traditionally, that's been their role. At this point, boards they have to really kind of do three things and not just provide oversight. They have to selectively lead the organization at times. In times of a crisis, for example, the boards really have to really kind of just, set the tone at that point. I'm sure that's the case with some of the news stories like, Volkswagen, for example, is in the news, and, BP was in the news some time back. That's when the board gets to lead. The board typically tends to partner with the executive team, and that's really most of what they do. But there are times when they just need to get out of the way. And each one of them, is a very different task, but it depends on having the right information. So the need for you to enable them is extremely important. That's the only group that, it's the last line of defense. It's the only place where you can go and discuss something. And, your communication with them is key. So I'm going to actually share a real-life example with you guys. So what you see here is an email that was sent to me. I've, obfuscated the details of who sent this to me. But the general idea is, quite often what you see is there's a last-minute email that goes out, or you actually send them, information perhaps, 2 days prior to the board meeting. So what you're seeing here is the minutes are attached. The agenda meeting in September is also, agenda for the upcoming meeting is also attached. You also have the fact that this email came to me on a Friday. This board meeting was on Tuesday. I have to go through all this information. The logistical information is also embedded in the same email. They're saying there's some policy documents that are attached that have to be reviewed. And then certainly, there's a vote that's, also, referenced there. This is an approval that was going to be sought in the next board meeting. Lastly, I would say I am pretty sure that the CEO of this board tried extremely hard to send all the information in one email. And why were they trying to do that? Because they don't want to bother the board with 5, 6 emails. And in trying to do that, you end up waiting till the last moment because you have to line up all your ducks before you send this out. Yet what you find is you might not have something, and then you have to send out a separate email, and that is, again, one of the examples of how your communication with that group is key. By the way, if you're doing all of this on paper, it's even worse because you got to wait for all this information. You got to print it out. You got to bind those. You got to FedEx those over. You got to drop those to the directors' offices. And this is not, once a month. I wish it was once a month. It actually really ends up being several times in the year. So, I have Gabe, share with us the meeting frequency in different committees that they use, our software OnBoard for. So, Gabe, do you mind sharing, some of the backdrop of how you guys, use the digital board portal across these various meetings? Can you talk about it a bit?
Sure. Basically, what got us started looking at this software was just trying to conserve paper, the cost associated with that, and what we've realized is that there's several different ways that we can implement this software throughout the organization. Now, if you're looking on the slideshow, there's only 5 committees that we currently use the software with, but so we're actually kind of limiting ourselves on how we use it and what we can use it for. But we have thoroughly enjoyed it, and just trying to come up with different ways to implement this has been an interesting journey, to say the least. But yeah, it's something that has been widely accepted throughout the bank. Our board of directors has welcomed it with open arms, and our board isn't necessarily the youngest that we've ever had, but we've never had any complaints. We've never had any concerns going forward, and everyone seems to thoroughly enjoy it. And I think that going forward, there's a lot of functionality that we have limited ourselves on because we just haven't used it to the full capability.
Yeah. Well, that's great, actually. It's good to hear that you guys are actually really finding adoption to be fairly easy. So what I see here is the fact that you're using it almost for 98 meetings in a year across 5 committees. I believe you have a few more committees and teams that you could certainly use it for. I see that some of these meetings are weekly meetings, and some of these are biweekly meetings, and then there are, of course, some monthly and quarterlies thrown in as well. When your meetings are on a weekly cadence, it is so important to get organized around the information. I'm going to talk about that because it's happening so fast. You cannot be sending this information or sharing this information in any other means. It has to be organized. And then when your meetings are on a quarterly cadence, like your audit committee, people tend to forget what happened in the last meeting. You owe it to them to get this information organized. And that's at the heart of what we're going to talk about today. I should say that, most organizations think about the most structured meetings as the candidate for, using a board portal for. Well, that's no longer the case. We find several of our customers come back to us and use it for their Monday morning management team meeting, or perhaps even for, there's an ideation session that we have every now and then, or whatever different meetings that you want to actually really kind of just get structured a little more than where you are. You could use, some of the technology that's available today. Boardroom technology is certainly starting to show up in other meetings as well. So thank you for that, Gabe. I'm going to talk about, how we can make meetings easy for you. Not just the board meeting, but, certainly what we have focused extremely hard on is just the fact that, we got to make the software as easy as it possibly can get. Now, while we do that, we also want to highlight the fact that board software and board portals in general are way, more organized and way more safer than doing it on email or doing it on paper. The advances that you have with these technologies that are available, certainly the iPads, which seem to be the popular choice, there are things that actually really are extremely important for your IT department to really kind of just look at, the Touch ID, as well as the encryption that's available. All of that is actually really, making sure that you got your, information, which is important, secured away as well. And, I have often heard that you don't have to start out with a board meeting. If you are trying to go digital, you can certainly pick another committee meeting, and you could try just doing that and see, how that changes. And then you can actually really go back to your board meeting. So that's another way to think about how to approach this. So, before I get into, showing you the product today, I want to actually really kind of just, highlight the 4 key learning objectives today, the things that I'm going to talk about. First, you need to create one place for everything, whether it's your board committee or your loan committee or your audit committee, for each one of those teams. Secondly, you got to go digital. Staying on paper is no longer an option. We have seen hundreds of boards and committee meetings successfully come back and tell us there is no way we are going to go back. And then, the third point I'm going to make here is because these meetings are so nuanced and there's so much information, providing the right information is key as well. And then lastly, with a board portal, you might not think about it like that, but you have a chance to manage the meeting structure. What you get in that meeting is key. Towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to share with you the evolving structure of a board meeting that is going to be ideal. You'd love to go back and share that with your board, with your CEO. That's the new evolved board structure that I've, in talking to various leaders and in being in these meetings, I've started to see that that's the preferred structure going forward. I'm going to share that towards the end of the presentation. Now, at this point, I'm going to actually quickly start a product presentation. Before I do that, I'm going to actually ask Gabe, as I set this up, to share his experience about, where were they before they were using OnBoard, and how much time, how much resistance and all of that, did they encounter within their organization. So, Gabe, can you share some of that with us?
Sure. Before we got set up on this software, our board meetings consisted of, a board packet that was put in a binder that was printed for every single member of the board. I think at the time currently we have 10 members on the board, and those board packets could get fairly thick depending on what time of the year and depending on what we were looking at for each meeting. But we basically just wanted to find a way to get rid of the paper, as Parun has been talking about and touching on, because there's no way now that we could go back to printing all those packets and putting them in binders. And then, of course, you factor in not only the cost of the paper, but then the time that it takes for everyone in all the different departments that, prepare all the different reports that go into the board meeting booklet. You factor in those expenses, and it's a lot more than what you would expect whenever you actually see it on paper. So it's kind of surprising, but we've actually tried to implement this into our not only our monthly board meetings, but in several different committees within the bank, and we found a lot of success with the Directors Loan Committee because the way we prepare our presentations for that committee. We would have a loan memo, any financial statements that would accompany that memo, any pictures of the collateral, so on and so forth. So you're looking at, 4 to 5 people on the board, plus any loan officers that we're going to present. So you're looking at maybe 10 to 12 copies of the same packet. Even if you do front and back on the paper, a presentation might range anywhere from 15 to 30 pages, and you multiply that by just that one committee. And, you literally take it from that meeting, walk to the shred bin, and throw it away and keep the one original copy. So we've found a lot of success with that. Now, speaking on behalf of like the audit committee and the trust committee and things like that, I'm not actually a member of those, but talking with the people that are, they agree with me, and then the general consensus for this software that it's an amazing thing that we've gotten a taste of it, and there's no way we can ever go back.
Very good. Well, thank you for that. I would like to point out that even ICBA, is actually going to try to start using OnBoard for their meetings, and I'm looking forward to that personally. That would be awesome as well. So, I'm set up at this point. Thank you for that, Gabe. I'm going to actually go into showing you the product. I'm not going to do a deep dive here. I'm going to, just about give you an overview. So what you see here is our OnBoard software. This is the administrative side of things. As soon as I log in, I'm logged in here as Rob. But what you see here is you see a list of all the organizations that I might be a member of. So if as a director, you are a member of multiple boards, our software allows you to actually really kind of just, have all those organizations be available through the same interface while keeping the information airtight between those organizations, okay? Now, when I look at where we are, this is not the commercial bank that Gabe's from. We just use a different logo and a generic name here. But what you see here is this is what he was talking about. The software tells you how many pages you've saved in your usage so far, and how many trees you've saved in the meanwhile. And across the entire set of customers, I bet we'll report that number at the end of the year, total how many pages we've saved. It just adds up to be an amazing number. So now what you see here is I'm going to jump into a typical board meeting that's been set up right here. This is the administrative view. So what you're seeing here is right here you have all the information you need to actually really get this information set up. I challenge any one of you guys to have a set of 5-10 documents ready and give us a call or send us an email, and we'll do a session like this, and we'll build an entire board book in less than 5 minutes. And that's our challenge. That's how easy this software is. So towards the end of the presentation, I'm going to share my details, and please take me up on this. We'd love to do a session where, we build a board book, and you'll see the anxiety that goes, with the board meeting, the day of the board meeting, or, 2 days prior. All of that can be history. So what you're seeing here is all the information, the logistical information, the location, how much time you're going to take. We've allocated about 180 minutes here, so obviously it's going to be a long board meeting. And then you certainly have, attendee list and all of that here. And then you have the agenda laid out here. Notice on each one of these agenda items, you marked who's going to be speaking, how long they're going to be taking. So that's the allocated time for that meeting. And then you're attaching all the different documents. Our software allows you to literally, you could just be dragging and dropping these, wherever you want, and that's going to just change the entire agenda for everybody in real time. You also have the ability to attach an Excel, a PowerPoint, a PDF, Word document, whatever you use, and the software compiles the entire book for you into one single board book. And that is awesome simply because, all the users, whether it's your directors or your executive team members, it makes it so much easier for them. One other thing that we do that, that is extremely important is that we allow you to really kind of just, take any one of these sections and set permissions on the access to even a section. So as a, board of directors, as a group, if there is a director or two that have a conflict of interest, you have the ability to redact just a section from the entire book for them and stay compliant. If you ever get audited, you can go back and pull that report and tell them exactly what each member, board of director actually really got to see. Another really key thing that we are able to do is you have the ability to really kind of take any one of these sections and you can assign it to somebody in your team. So if you're the admin to the board, you can say, hey, our CFO is going to provide a particular report like the financial overview, and then, you might have somebody else, in IT might be providing, a technology use report. So you can collaboratively pull this together. The outcome of that is key. You are no longer waiting for every document to actually really reach you before you can start to, create the board book. The email that I pulled up where they were waiting for every attachment to get ready. What you will have in essence here is as a particular report or a section is finalized, people will go ahead and add those sections, and your board members or your committee members can at least start to review what you already have. You don't have to wait, for the stars to line up for that, for that meeting information to be available to your directorship and your committee members. They need as much time as you can possibly give them for them to have a chance to really kind of evaluate and, really kind of analyze all that information. When they will compile the board book, they will always have the ability to see the sections that have already been populated, and the ones that are missing, they'll just be marked, so you know that they're not there. Now, when I show you all of this, one really key introduction that we've done very recently, we want to make this software as easy as possible, and we want to make sure that we do this working, with the environment that you already have. And this is, we know you use Microsoft Office for all these different documents. So what we've done is we've given you a way to work within the Office documents. I have an example right here. So this is a document that you see. This particular Office document, let's say you want to attach this to a certain board, meeting and a particular agenda. What we've done now is we've given you an integration point right here within the Word document itself. In the exact same way, we also have the ability to really kind of just work with, with PowerPoint or Excel you have the ability to really push out any one of these documents right from within the Office documents themselves. So what you see here is if I want to actually link this document, you can see that OnBoard is actually really lining up right here. It's going to actually really, ask me for a sign-in. Once I link this document, thereafter, any change I make, that change will actually really be available, and it'll be in sync with your document itself. And meanwhile, I can certainly actually really see, any change that I am making here is actually really kind of just reflected. So if I want to actually really change this to, whatever formatting changes I actually really make, I can do that. I'm going to actually quickly log back into this user and then show you how I can link this. So give me just a brief second. And this is important because what we're trying to do here is we are trying to actually really kind of just link right to the native Word document, Excel document formats. And what that's going to allow you to do is when you link this document and, all your organizations will show up right here. These are the various boards that Rob is a member of. Now Rob can actually pick commercial bank right here. When he does that, it's actually really just going to allow you to, pick which meeting. Notice how right from within Word, I could actually really say, I want to get to the November board meeting, and I want to actually really kind of just, get this attached to a certain section. And when I do that, it's going to just upload this particular document and we'll be good. Notice when I did this, all of this was within the Word document itself. Now what I have here is this particular board book, or this particular, when I compile the entire book, I can just click on this and the compiled board book is going to load up. This compiled board book I'll also pull up from an iPad, and I'll show you that briefly. But when I go to a particular section, I can pull up just that section as well, and that section will load up. And in this section, what you'll notice is, this is the document that we actually really just worked with, and you saw that I made some changes, and they're showing up right here. Because this document is linked, remember the OnBoard link from right within your documents. Again, easy to use, fits the world that you already live in. You don't have to worry. And we are uniquely the only application in the marketplace that integrates with Office. Very jazzed about that. Now with that, I'm going to show you what the experience looks like for a director. And I'm going to actually really kind of just do that using my iPad. And real quick, let me actually really get my iPad to really be showing here on the screen. And it'll take just a second. There you go. I'm going to now go full screen here so you guys can look at this. So as a director, if you want to use an iPad, this is what you do. First of all, you can certainly look at all the organizations, and those organizations show up right here. It's just, left swipe, and then you get to it. And then if you want to look at any particular meeting, let's say the November board meeting, all you have to do is you have to go back. Let me just, quickly. Oops, I think there's too much technology being used here. Give me 1 second. My connection blipped for just a second. I'm going to log back in. So I'm going to log back in as this particular user, and what you'll see is as soon as I log in, I'm going to see all my different. I'm going to set a. First of all, notice how it's asking me to set up a offline passcode. And this is if your directors are in offline mode, they're actually really at a place where they might not have Wi-Fi. You now are giving them the ability to really have access to all your board and committee information. So they can review the information wherever they are. Sometimes they'll be using this iPad to review the information in their downtime. And that's great because they deserve to actually really be able to do that. What you now have is a very easy interface. All your meetings are lined up right here. They are in chronological order. We routinely hear from our customers that they love how logical this is. And the fonts are big and bold. In case you have an aging board, you certainly have a single tap that allows you the agenda to load up right here. So what you see here is the agenda, and then every one of these sections is actually really just a single tap away. And the directors could go right into a particular section. Whatever they want to review at that time, they can go right to it. Now, once you get a particular section to load up, notice this is the same document that we were actually really, reviewing, and we were updating just a second back. Now, as a director, you do have the ability to not just actually review, but you can make some annotations as well. This includes, being able to type up a quick note And, if you say, if you have a question that you want to ask, you can just make an annotation there. Our software right here actually allows you to make those notes. And then there's an easy reference right there. What you see in the top right-hand corner is an annotation summary. So as a director, you're getting information faster. You're also allowing them to do offline review. And then certainly once they review, all their notes are being indexed. So in the meeting, they could actually jump to any particular page. In the meeting, they could actually really kind of just be, whatever questions they had to ask, they could do that. And, they also have a single tap. The entire agenda is at their fingertips right while you're viewing the information, so you don't lose your place in the book. Context is everything when this information is being reviewed. We realize board meetings and committee meetings, the information that you're serving up is very dense. There's a reason why all this information that needs to be shared ahead of time and so on. So what we've done is we made the software easy enough where people can search for information. If they're looking for any particular keyword, they can jump right to it and they can see it highlights exactly where that word shows up across the entire, information set. It also gives you the ability to go back and quickly pull up the agenda, look at any prior meeting. Let's say you think something was discussed in July, you could go back and look at that, and so on. And that's, I think, the key to having a successful board meeting. Now, we are very big on, utilizing our software for other meetings. So I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So what you have here is, obviously, a software that allows you to organize your board meeting information. Let's think about certain other meetings like your loan committee meeting or your audit committee. Each one of those have a similar meeting, outline and agenda and then information that you're sharing. There's absolutely no difference. Sometimes in some of these meetings, the actions that you take, those are slightly different. So what you have here is you have the ability to really kind of just, create, for example, in the loan committee meeting, there might be some voting that you need to do. So right now, I can look through the various loans that need a vote, and here's an example of a vote that will actually show up. Now I can actually go in there. I can see the document that's attached. This could be the loan document, but I could vote and I could submit that vote. And this I could do even if I'm actually really going to just not in the meeting. I could actually. If I'm ever missing a particular meeting, I could still actually really partake in the meeting remotely. And that's absolutely key as well. We often find certain directors, who travel to warmer places in the wintertime and so on. So I think this gives you a great way to really kind of just get them to stay on top of information, and all of that can actually really continue to happen while they're away for winter or summer or what have you. So, what you've seen here is a brief overview of, where things are. Let me just quickly, make sure I've hit all the right things here. So, again, on the top menu bar, what you have is you have a quick agenda, there's a profile information, notifications are showing up right here. The software actually prompts you, tells you what you need to pay attention. Any announcement is showing up right here. Your entire board group is going to show up here. So if I want to actually look at all the people who are in the system, you can certainly actually pull up their profiles, and that's sometimes important. And then you also have, what we call the resource center, and this resource center is key. So while with every one of these groups, you do have, the day-to-day, the meeting information that you require and you want them to review, there's another set of information, that you often make available to them. These are the bylaws, and these are the policies, and these are the industry reports that you want them to have access to, and sometimes you need to do that for compliance reasons. So what you see here is a resource library, and this allows you to really kind of just go in and, look at, any one of these documents. So if I go into one of these groups, I can pull up the documents from within that, and these could be PDFs and whatnot, and you can organize this as well. So this is the macro-level documents that you want to make available, not the meeting-level documents. And all of this is neatly organized. Certainly we paid a lot of attention to making it very simple, easy to work with. Go back and switch to another board. You can easily do that. Now you're seeing entirely different set of meetings. This is a different organization. So you see that, we use this at Passageways for our all-staff meetings every month. You certainly can switch back to commercial bank, and you'll get right to your November meeting and so on. And, you'll also see that there are certain meetings for December that are starting to show up because they've just been lined up. So that's a brief overview of what I wanted to cover here. At this point, I'm going to actually really kind of just, go back to my slides. And while I do that, Gabe, as you're seeing this, I know you've not used the Connect for Office feature that we've just built. Is there any particular, part of what I'm talking about that might actually really be interesting for you to comment on?
Yes. Actually, what we've tried to do is implement the vote feature, which we're still tinkering around with that. But that I believe is going to be one of the challenges that has been tasked to me to figure out. To have a digital log of who voted on what. But I mean, we're a little bit different because our board directors around here live in this area. So when we need them to come in and vote on a loan, for example, that needs approval, we can just call them the day before, and they'll show up the next morning. But every so often, there's one or two that can't make it, and we're trying to learn and iron out all the logistics with opening a vote so that when we upload the loan memo and all the financial statements and things, that they can actually look at it at their convenience and vote whenever they need to. That way we have a physical presence here within our bank, and then we can also log those that couldn't quite make it that voted using their iPads. So that feature is something that I have tried to learn, and that I think we've got it down for the most part. It's just now I've got to convince the CEO to let me run with it and open it for the directors to use.
Yeah. Can you comment on, is every one of your directors already using, iPads and what have you? Are there one or two, sort of exceptions to that, in your board or even your loan committee, actually? Are there people who are still wanting paper, and is that okay?
No, there is. There was a little hesitation before we went live with our board members and our directors loan committee, but everyone uses iPads. There's nobody that has requested paper copies. Now, I still print maybe one or two just to have backup, because there are a couple of people on the board that just can't quite work their iPad as efficiently as everyone else. So, to save time, I just slide them a paper copy, and that's about it. But for the most part, the last probably 3 or 4 meetings I've been to, everyone has brought their iPad. Everyone's connected to Wi-Fi. They've logged into OnBoard. They've viewed the presentation perfectly fine, and there hasn't been any hiccups at all. So moving forward, I think everyone has now finally gotten the hang of seeing the software, where they're familiar with the layout of it. And mainly, I think the problems and issues we were having wasn't dealing with the software. I think it was mainly trying to hook into the Wi-Fi at the bank, because it's got to be a secure 15,000-digit password to get logged in, and after so many minutes, it would automatically kick them out. So I think it was mainly to do with the bank's internet ability rather than software. So for the most part.
What was your experience, in working through our team? I take a lot of pride in actually really kind of just, making sure that we continuously, add to how we can, add value to your organization. It's not just software. I do believe that, almost every customer has a board member or two that need to be, still be working, on paper or laptops, and we work through all those situations, very patiently, and I think we do that quite well. What has been your experience in working with our team?
Everyone that I've ever had to speak with or contact via email or telephone have been extremely helpful. Our representative, Courtney, she'll answer an email within a matter of minutes, and if she doesn't, then she'll have someone within the organization call me back or email me back a response. But there's been just a handful of times I've had to call for technical issues, and a representative has had someone in their office walking me through the problems that we had, or showing me how to properly do it. So it's been extremely easy working with you guys. The the customer support and the technical support is just spot on.
I think that's important as well. I noticed when Courtney called you for this webinar, she just literally called and said, "Hey, it's me," and you knew it was. And I always love to see that. I think that's where we would like to actually really continue to be. Thank you for that. I'm going to try and bring this home for us. I'm going to actually really talk about a few things before I get into the evolved board meeting, how the board meeting of the future is actually shaping out to be. So let me get right into it. So the first thing is a central repository is important. It's not just something that is convenient. There is security, and then there's also the discoverability piece that you need to think about. As an organization in a regulated industry, every now and then there's going to be some legal proceedings. Just having everything in one spot brings down your legal bills several times. Not giving everybody a paper copy that could be left behind somewhere accidentally, actually really keeps you, away from all that discoverability risk. So that's quite important. Getting organized, people will get used to it, and you'll have the right training and support from our team, but I certainly feel that's key. Emails, while emails are okay, they're at least better than paper, but emails often do convert into paper. People print those off, and then you're back to where you were, and they can't be encrypted. So that's something to think about. It's important for us to actually really kind of just make sure that we don't look at this technology and this, sort of setup just as a paper replacement, because remember, you're giving them real-time updates. You're providing them with archives. Archives are prior meetings. You're being able to do approvals. These approvals can happen in between meetings as well. You're documenting all the decisions for future reference. And then you're making available all the policies, for the board and various committees, the rules of the game, if you will. Those policies need to be handy, because when you need to reference it, you can't really be asking the admin to dig it out and send it to you. You lose that moment as a director, and that's not, okay. And lastly, the permissions piece that I talked about, if there's a conflict of interest, managing that is important in this day and age. So it's not just a paper replacement. Any one of these things that I've mentioned here, you just cannot actually really achieve all of this in paper. So that would be the key for me. What you see here is an approval screen, how you can actually document every decision that you make at the board level. The second piece that I have is, organizations need to go digital. It's stating the obvious. We are in the 21st century here. But the fact is, you might be thinking of going digital. I saw a lot of you guys mark that in the poll. The fact is, I have news for you. You guys are already digital. Every document starts out as digital before it becomes paper. And that weird workflow that we have, and you start out digital, and then you print it out, and then you give it to people, and then you scan it sometimes. If you just sit and think about it, it's about time that you actually really kind of just started out digital and stayed digital, and go one better with that. With OnBoard, you could actually really be in Word and Excel and PowerPoint, and you could link that right to OnBoard, and you could be actually really sitting exactly where you'd love to be in the world that you already are very comfortable with. You'll never have an outdated board book. Everybody will actually really be, in sync. Last-minute changes would be very easy. Instant real-time syncing is something that, organizations need to have today, and that's the key. Not everyone is going to give up paper. Just know that. That's how it rolls out. Soon enough, they'll get there. So don't let that be a hurdle. If you have a director or two or a committee member or two where you have to print things off and you got to do that, that's okay. Live with that for 6 to 8 months, and you'll see everybody fall in line. That's pretty much everybody's experience. The second point that I have here, I'm going a little off script, but I'm going to actually say beware of too much information. When you go digital and you start to share information, I see that organizations start to really share everything now. It's easy. You don't have to print it. You don't have to bind it. Just, give them everything. Throw the kitchen sink at them, if you will. Well, stay away from that temptation, because remember, and I'm going to talk about the evolved board meeting, but 80% of your board meeting especially needs to be prospective and not retrospective. If you're giving them too much information on what already happened, you are actually not utilizing the one place where you can go and discuss and make changes before things have already happened. Retrospective is important, but can't be all the entire meeting. The third thing that I have for you, and this is no surprise, providing the right information. The right information actually sparks great discussions. And, sometimes you're providing information that is too low down, too many details, and you get your groups to be in the weeds, and you got to keep them away from that. Board directors are responsible for the general direction of an organization, should remain focused on the strategy and the mission. Focusing on the current period is important, but, certainly you got to give them information, just variances on what we try to do. Here's the variance. We are 3% off or 5% off. Giving them every little detail takes up the entire meeting. So you've got to give them the right information, fly at the right altitude, not too high, not too low. And that's sort of, interesting and important to keep in mind. Portals do provide you a way to, say, hey, this is not going to be discussed, but here's the report. You can click around, and if you like, you could read it. But this is the agenda. This is what we're going to actually look through. And then, consent agenda and appendices are the perfect place to go hide that information that you are trying to provide just to please that one director or two, or just to really make sure, somebody on the board gets to see this because you have a legal expert, a compliance expert, and you want to share this information with them. You've got to stop, sending too much information, and drive engagement. Too many details actually really, lead to board meetings, and certainly, that's something that I've been part of several times, and I can tell you that's the last thing you want. If you have directors on your team that are actually really not openly engaging in discussions, my advice is to actually really have the CEO, give heads up to those directors and say, hey, I'm going to actually really ask for your feedback on this particular piece ahead of the meeting so that it becomes a discussion. It's a discussion where everybody's engaged, and that's one of the things that I've successfully used, in my own world. Lastly, I'm going to talk about managing the meeting structure. What makes a great meeting is a key thing to think about. I think, great boards have great board meetings. That's how it actually really pans out. You got to keep in mind that, you have to give them the right information, but you also have to share stories in the board meeting. Data should be shared in the board book. Stories need to be shared in the boardroom or in the, in various meetings, wherever, if you're talking about audit and in a compliance committee, I hope you don't have too many stories to share there. That's not often the best, scenario, but certainly, board should spend more time on discussion of the topics and less on the routine reporting. Consent agenda certainly actually really allows you to do that. Now, the meeting structure is an important piece. So what we've done is we've given you tools to time box your meeting. So what you see here is it actually tells you that Varun has to finish this in 10 minutes, and, Bill has to finish this particular piece in, 30 minutes and so on. Notice how it says variances for the budget. Gary's going to actually discuss this in 20 minutes and so on. If you don't do this, and, people don't know how much time every section is allowed, and you're basically inviting interruptions, and, you have to avoid meetings that are a weapon of mass interruption. I heard this quote somewhere, and I love it simply because it allows you to really think about, okay, this is how much time you have, and everybody kind of knows it, so you keep the meeting, spending the right amount of time on the right topics. So those are some keys. Now let me get to, my closing thoughts and the final, piece that I have here. Board meetings are evolving, and traditionally, boards have provided oversight. At this point, boards have three different things. They have to lead the executive team sometimes. They have to partner with them sometimes. They just have to get out of the way at certain other times. And these three things are very different than just providing oversight. And to do that, here's the anatomy of a board meeting that I see, more and more organizations are adopting. Talking to various community banks, I was just in Naples at the ICBA annual meeting, and, this is sort of, I did a little session there, and, what I love about this is the administrative work, that needs to be minimized. 30 minutes or less, a vote or, just making sure you have quorum, some of the, approval of minutes, all of that can be done using software today. and that could reduce the amount of time you take in the administrative part of it. The discussions, that's the meat of what you do. You should discuss up to, 3 or 4 topics, maybe 5 topics, but, a couple hours. These should actually really be, some things that, the CEO has to be, time boxing this discussion, also needs help from the chair oftentimes, but this discussion is really what the board meeting is all about. And then there's an executive session, about 30 minutes, where CEO and board are the only people in the room. You have that, so the CEO gets some candid feedback. And in the end, you could have another 10, 15-minute session where the CEO leaves the room and the board has time where the chair actually really checks in with everybody and gets any feedback from the board for the CEO, and the chairman can actually really deliver that one-on-one, but it's actually really sort of done without the CEO in the room. This is the evolving board meeting structure that actually really kind of just, is key. And on that note, I just want to actually really quickly, highlight the fact that we have just rolled out this Connect for Office. This is an awesome feature which allows you to really kind of just continue to work in your documents and update them even at the last moment. They're already linked to your OnBoard, setup. If you guys would care to actually really explore this further, you certainly can actually really come back and ask us, and we'd love to actually give you a trial for this. A paperless board solution, it can help you save, our environment. It can help you obviously save some money, 72 boxes. That's how much, commercial banks has actually saved 72 boxes of paper, in less than a year, and with just 5 committees. So you can easily rack up a pretty good amount of saving right from just the paper cost. Forget the ink, forget the printer, forget the time saving, because time is really where this solution actually really makes sense. And then, I should say we do offer a free trial. So any one of you guys, if you go to our website and request a free trial, you'll get somebody from our side to actually jump on a quick little meeting. It takes hardly 20, 30 minutes to start a trial, get something, some basic training, and you'll be off. You'll be actually really trying to mess around and play around, and we'll check in with you. It is a solution that can literally make you a hero in the boardroom or in the committee rooms. If you really want to take that step before the year is out, we'd love to hear from you. So I have my email address right here, Varun@passageways.com. You could also call this number. We'll make these slides available to you guys. At this point, that's everything I have. I would like to actually really certainly, open this up for a few questions for me or for Gabe. But thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you especially to Gabe for, being such a good sport and sharing his experience. At this point, we'll take some questions. And I am looking at trying to see how do I get to the question panel here. Q&A. There you go. All right. Let's see if we have any questions. I'll try and answer those. Any questions? Please type in your questions in the Q&A panel on your screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to submit a question, please click on the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen or on the Q&A tab at the top of your screen. Please remember to keep the send to as all panelists.
One of the questions that I can always, that I get often is, how much does it cost? Let me actually at least answer that question. You can go to our website, and our pricing is available right there for you. If you go to the OnBoard page, you'll be able to see the pricing. We have 3 different editions. One that allows you, sort of just a quick get in and, set it up for, just one group, which is our Essential Edition. And then we have our Professional and Enterprise Editions as well. Okay, so I'm getting a question here from Gary. Can you review the offline iPod mode again? Yes, absolutely. So the offline iPod mode, I'm going to actually really show you that real quick. So what you have is, I'm going to try and see, if I can project my screen here again. Real quick, so the offline mode is actually really very powerful because what you see there is you do have the ability to make all your annotations and all your notes, while you're in offline mode. So what you see here is on this particular screen, you are, looking at a user that's logged in. But if I load up this particular book and I made some annotations, I am currently in the, I'm connected, obviously. You can see that there's a little wireless logo right here that shows up. But if I was not connected, and I'm trying to think, can I go offline here and show that feature? It's going to show up there. So let me actually really kind of just go offline here. Before I do that, let me make a few annotations here. So we know these are the online annotations that we made. I'm going to go and get offline. As soon as I do that, now it's going to ask me for an offline passcode. And this is the passcode that's needed because if your device is offline, we would like to know that you are who you are. So there's an offline passcode that is set up. It's certainly something that's important. And, you do have a 4-digit passcode that helps you really make sure that, you are the right user. And then when you are actually really offline, I don't know if I can actually really project my offline, setup on the screen. I'm not sure. Technically, it might actually really be difficult to pull this off. But here's the gist of it. You have a passcode in the offline mode. All your notes that you make when you're in offline mode, they will actually really be available to you. When you go online, it'll sync up with the cloud. Next time, if somebody has pushed an update in the meanwhile, you also actually really, get that sync up. Let's say there's a new section that was added. Your notes and everything that you made, they will always remain with you. So you don't lose anything. New sections will show up. And, I think it's uniquely one of those interesting things that will actually really just become a no-brainer for you. I hope I answered your question there, Gary. So next question, this is from Lisa. Is there a limited amount of users allowed? I think the number of users is how we actually really price our software. We have organizations with, well over 100 users at this point, in fact, several of them. So you certainly have the ability to add more users as you go. You don't have to really start out with, 20, 30 users. You can start out with just one group. But then you can come back and you can add more users as you extend this to multiple groups. And maybe, I should actually really ask this to Gabe. Gabe, did you guys start out with 5 committees out of the gate, or did you add some users subsequently?
I think once we finally got the monthly board committee started, then we added committees as we saw that we needed them. And as I said, we're continuously adding them continuously on this software once we can kind of iron out the logistics of it. But yeah, we originally started out with 1, and we've just added a couple as we've gone forward. Very good.
Yep. So there you have it. I think that's the right answer. You can certainly have as many users, and if there is, did I get that question correctly? I just want to make sure, Lisa, we are answering the right question. There is no limit to how many users you can add. The software is just priced by number of users. Most of our customers continue to add more groups as they get more and more teams, to go digital. Yep. Any other questions? I know we are a few minutes over, but, if there are some questions, we'd love to answer them. Like I said, this is, in my 13 years, this is absolutely the best product we put on the marketplace. We are absolutely jazzed about where we are. Let's look at one more question that we just got, I believe from Todd. Did you streamline your board reporting when you started using OnBoard, or do you just provide what you had before by paper? I think this question might actually really be answered by both me and Gabe. And Gabe's already answered. So Gabe's answer, if I can just read it out for somebody else who might not be looking at the Q&A box. I believe Gabe, he's talking about we've gone completely paperless and no more paper copies are printed. Gabe, can you tell us, did you also take the chance to streamline the information rather than just making the transition from paper to digital? Did you look at what kind of reports, how big the board book gets, the meeting cadence and all of that? Did you guys review where you were and streamline some of that reporting, or first you made the paperless transition and then you can actually continue to optimize? I guess, that would be interesting to know.
Well, we actually, I want to say we actually went and just started transitioning over from the paper copies to the same information just within OnBoard for the first couple of months. And then once we got everyone familiar with the layout of the software and how, not only on the board's end, on the end user side with the iPads, but with everyone behind the scenes that were uploading documents, once everyone became familiar and comfortable with it, which didn't take very long at all, we just transitioned over. It was almost like we flipped the switch. Whenever we got the CEO completely comfortable with it, he said, okay, we're not going to print any more board books. So it was almost like a work in progress, if you will. We went over from originally from the paper copy, we were just uploading the same information to then one day it was almost like overnight we just went completely paperless.
And let me actively share my experience with you there, Todd. On the 4 different boards that I have, I've seen this dynamic. The fact is that transitioning away from paper or email, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to make your meetings more effective. And the good news is when you work with a provider, certainly with us, you'll find a lot of input that we might be able to give you. So if you'd like us to connect you with certain other boards that are actually really functioning very well, or you would like to set up a call with the CEO at another bank, we facilitate those regularly. So you have help in streamlining the meeting as well. But I think step number 1 is to commit to a solution where you can actually really kind of just go paperless first. And it's not just going paperless, it's making sure you go real time and you go secure, and then certainly you go paperless as well. So I hope that answers that question. Any other questions?
Well, it looks like we may be wrapping up here. This is Callie again, and I just wanted to thank you, Parun, and our special guest, Gabe Lindsay, for that wonderful webinar presentation. And thanks to all of our attendees who were able to join us today. I just have a couple announcements before we sign off. In 2 business days, all attendees will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording of today's event for your review, or to forward it along to any of your colleagues who are unable to attend today's event. And just as Parun said earlier, if you would like to receive a copy of today's slide deck, please send your inquiry via email to Parun. His email is no longer on the screen, but it is parun@passageways.com. This concludes today's webinar. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate everybody joining us today, and thanks to Gabe as well for jumping in and sharing his experience. Appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.